Namaste. Today being an International Day of Yoga, Maanaw Seva Association has organized a talk on yoga and at the same time also talk related to pranayam and naturopathy. Yoga, pranayam and naturopathy, all three are related to health, mind and well-being. Maanaw Seva Association is registered charitable society which was established in 1990 to help people improve their quality of life. Since establishing, it has helped many people directly and indirectly, and locally and internationally. Its main objective is to raise awareness and education, which is exactly what we are here to do today. Maanaw Seva Association has been able to do this good work with your help and hopes to continue to do so in future. Today, first speaker is Neeru Parashar. She is going to speak on yoga and pranayam. Neeru is an accredited yoga instructor and registered with Council of Yoga in Accreditational International from India and certified with Yoga Association of Alberta. She had the opportunity to learn under different teachers while growing up in India. In spite of having masters in economics, her passion to share ancient wisdom of yoga took her to Kaivalya Dham, India, where she had the opportunity to study under experienced teachers. The training enabled her to offer traditional yoga classes rooted in modern science. Yoga is part of her life since many years. She has taken special interest in pranayam, chanting, philosophy of yoga, and its therapeutic approach and scientific relevance. She has also undertaken Ayurveda training, which helps her to combine these two ancient sciences together in her classes. Her classes weaves the philosophy of Patanjali and Hatha Yoga that are accessible for any age and level of practitioners. She teaches public and private classes at various locations in Edmonton and offers her classes to adults, seniors, bridging the gap groups, high-risk youth, Parkinson's patients, and for stress and anxiety.
Sahana bhavatu, sahano bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste everyone. My name is Neeru Parashar, and today in this session we are going to talk about the theory and practices of asanas and pranayama. In today's world, when we hear the word yoga, what comes to our mind is the asana practice or the physical aspects of yoga. But yoga has a spiritual value, and asana, pranayama are just the means to achieve that higher level of consciousness. So, to learn about asana, let's see what asana means. According to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, asana is defined as sthiram sukham asanam. That is, a posture which is stable and comfortable both for the body and mind is called asana. So in this context, we can say that yoga asanas are practiced to develop the ability to sit in a comfortable seated position for an extended period of time for meditation. So again, the goal is to achieve that meditative pose. But it would not be wrong to say that yoga asanas also bring health and well-being to the human being. Now, Hatha yogis developed various techniques and practices of asanas and pranayama in the later period. Now, it is said in Hatha yoga that there can be as many as 84,000 asanas, so as many as species on this planet. But out of these 84,000 asanas, there are few body postures that enables the spiritual goal, that enables to open up the energy channels of the body, and it enables to bring the control over body and mind. So how to do these asanas? So we are going to learn that aspect now. So according to Patanjali, an asana should be sthiram and sukham. It should be stable and comfortable. But the principle of doing that asana is prayatna shaithalya. That means slackening of effort. So when we are doing an asana, there should be a very slow movement while going into an asana, while performing that asana, and coming out of that asana. So that is very important aspect of asana practice, and it should be done with full awareness. When we do an asana with full awareness, that makes it a yoga asana. So that differentiates from the exercise, which is repetitive movement, a mechanical movement. Now, the second aspect or principle of doing an asana is ananta samapatti bhyam. That is, when you are in that stable position, the mind should be focused on infinite object or subject. So in the beginning, what does that mean? It means that you can focus on your body or your breath. And in the advanced practices, the focus can be in the infinite object or subject. So this is the principle that is given by Patanjali. Now, Hatha yogis also believe that the practice of asana gives steadiness and stability to the body and mind, and thus it is a very important practice to reach to the higher goal, or maybe to sit in the practice of pranayama. So what are the benefits of doing asana in a classical way? In Patanjali Yoga Sutras, again it is mentioned that when asanas are done in this way, it leads to tato dvandhanabhigataha. It removes all the conflicts at all the level, physical, mental, emotional levels. Now, if we see from modern science point of view, stress and anxiety is a very common phenomena these days. And whenever there is any disturbance at the level of mind, it shows its impact on the body. For example, if you're in a constant stress, the muscles become really stiff, and all the blood vessels that go inside those muscle fibers, they get pinched. So the blood circulation or blood does not reach to all the parts of the body properly. So what we do in asana is skillful stretching. What happens in skillful stretching? The blood vessels gets dilated, and blood flow improves to all the different parts of the body. So the micro circulation improves. So this way we can see that the practice of asanas reduces the muscle tension. And in asana practice, we are not only stretching, but we are also giving contraction to different muscles of the body. So that improves the tone of those muscles. For example, when we are doing Shalabhasana, we are lying down on the floor and we are raising our legs off the floor. We are working against the gravity, and all the muscles of the back are getting strengthened. To use a proper word, we are toning those muscles. Now, apart from that, in certain asanas, we are giving pressure to the abdominal muscles and organs. Thereby, we improve the functioning of those organs as well. In balancing posture, for example, in Vrikshasana or Tadasana, we are improving the neuromuscular balance and improving concentration. So overall, what are we doing in those asanas? We are consciously holding a posture, and the role of emotional brain goes down. The impact of emotion goes down, and we develop our cortex, the higher brain. So these are some of the benefits of doing yoga posture at physical level, and at the mental level it gives calmness, concentration, and it also channelizes the energy if we see the spiritual reasons. As it is said in Hatha Yoga that asanena rajohanti, asana removes the rajas or hyperactivity of the mind. So for example, in today's busy world, it is not possible sometimes to devote 1 hour or 90 minutes for the practice of asanas. So if you're maybe sitting at your workplace, you can just bring your arms up in Namaskar Mudra, and you can do Parvatasana, which is really good to tone all the muscles of your back. It gives nice stretch to your front or chest muscles, good for your respiratory system. So it is giving isometric tone to all the muscles. For example, if you're sitting on a chair, you can do simple twisting on one side and then the other side. So all these forward bends, back bends are really good to stretch all the spinal muscles. When we are doing forward bends, it is really good for the contraction of all the muscles. It gives massage to those organs. Twisting is really good to stimulate your pancreas, or it gives massage to your kidneys. Lateral bending is really good for your thoracic cage. So you can choose 4 to 5 asanas and try to practice them on regular basis, and then you can see the effect of those practices. Now let's move to pranayama. Now pranayama has a very important role in Hatha Yoga. It is said that if we remove the practice of pranayama from Hatha Yoga, it would not stand anywhere. So what is pranayama? Pranayama can be defined as, or can be divided into two, prana and ayama. Prana is the vital force, or it is the life force, vital energy. It is said in Kathopanishad that the entire cosmos owes its existence to prana. As we are the microcosm of the macrocosm, this pranic energy is also governing all the functions of our body. Ayama can be translated as extension, expansion, channelization, or pause. Now breath is one such thing which is under the governance of prana and which can be controlled by our will. So in simple words, if we have to define pranayama, we can say that it is the expansion of the vital energy through the extension of breath. Now breath is running throughout the day and night at its own rhythm, but we can control the breath at our will as well. Now, ancient yogis found out that there is a relationship between breath and mind. Patanjali says that if there is any distraction in mind, it is due to the disturbance of prana. He says, Dukkha dharmasya angamev jayatva shwas prashwas vikshepa sahabhuva, and he gives the remedy that one should control the breath. Hatha yogis also found out that there is a relationship between mind and breath, and they said, Chale vate chale chittam nischale nischalam bhaved. As the breath goes, so is the mind. For example, if a person is angry at that time, the breath is really shallow and fast. If a person is depressed, the exhalation becomes very slow and deep. So there is a direct relationship between breath and mind. We can say that if our mind is the kite, then breath is the string, and if we can calm down our breath, we can calm down our mind. Now, usual breathing is undertaken by two centers of the brain, medulla oblongata and pons. Now, we can also willfully control the breath. So, if we have to see the definition of pranayama, as per Patanjali, we can again say that it is tasmin sati shwas prashwas yor gati vichcheda pranayama. He says that once you sit in a comfortable seated position, when you bring a pause between your breath, your inhalation and exhalation, then that is pranayama. So that tasmin sati, that seated position becomes really important, which we discussed in asana. And when we bring that pause, then that becomes pranayama. So that pause can be brought even after exhalation or before exhalation, or it can be paused anytime before inhalation and exhalation. Now, Patanjali gave this definition of pranayama and he talked about the pause, but Hatha yogis developed the techniques of pranayama in the later period, and they gave different pranayamic techniques. And for the inhalation, they used the term puraka, and for exhalation, they used the term rechika, and for the pause, they used this term called kumbhaka. Now, pranayama is also called as kumbhaka in Hatha Yoga. Now, what is the effect of these pranayamic practices? What is the effect of pausing the breath or bringing the breath under control? As per Patanjali, he says that when we do that, it removes the veil of ignorance and it brings or it prepares the mind for the higher practices of dharana, dhyan and samadhi. He says, Tatha kshiyate prakasha avaranam dharanasu cha yogyata manasaha. Now, Hatha yogis also said that when we control our breath, or when we are doing this inhalation and exhalation in a regulated manner, we are also cleansing our nadis. So they termed the effect of pranayamic practices under Nadi Shuddhi. Now, nadis are the energy channels through which the pranic energy runs within the body. And if there is any blockage or any hindrance in the path of those nadis, what we experience is disease. Now, from the modern science point of view, what is the effect of these pranayamic practices? Now, when we are inhaling and exhaling slowly, rhythmically, willfully, we are training our lungs. Our lungs are sending information to the brain centers. So there is a brain center called hypothalamus. So it sends signal or message to that brain center, and then that shifts the mechanism from sympathetic to parasympathetic, from activity to rest and relax response. And that in turn gives rest to the overall body. So in stress, when the organs are working at very fast pace, not at their natural rhythm, then it affects the different systems of the body. It takes toll on different systems of the body. And when that rest and relaxed response is sent to the body, it gives rest to those organs and they work at their natural rhythm. So it is really good practice for people who have stress, anxiety as well. And also the parasympathetic dominance improves in the longer run. It is said that when you continue the practice of pranayama for few weeks or months, it establishes certain neurotransmitters like serotonin, melatonin, GABA in your brain. And these things are very important for your sleep, hunger, thirst. So you can see that in the long run, they can adjust, or they can bring your digestive system in proper rhythm. They can take care of all the other vital organs of the body. So overall, we can see that pranayamic practices are really good for your overall body as well as your mind. So a very important practice or popular practice is Anulom Vilom. So what are we doing in that? So in Anulom Vilom, we are inhaling from left nostril, we are exhaling from the right nostril, and then we again inhale from the same right and exhale from the left. We are slowly and rhythmically inhaling and exhaling. In Hatha Yoga, it is said that you take double the time for your exhalation. So that is the ratio which is given to practice your pranayama in Hatha Yoga. So all these practices are not only working at the gross level, but also at the subtle level and also at the energetic level. As we discussed about the nadis, this Anulom Vilom, which is also known as Nadi Shuddhi, when you retain your breath, cleanses all the energy channels of the body. And it is very important that those energy channels are cleansed and they are working properly for overall health and well-being of a person. So I'm going to give you only 2 practices today, which you can practice every single day, because it is very important that you have the consistency in your routine. So what we do, what I'm going to show you is a simple Kapalbhati and Anulom Vilom. Now Kapalbhati is one of the cleansing or Shuddhi Kriya in Hatha Yoga. It is not a pranayam. And what it does is it cleanses your nasal and paranasal sinuses. It helps to cleanse your upper respiratory tract. So in Kapalbhati, we do active and rhythmic strokes or movement of the abdominal muscles in such a way that a frictional sound is produced, which is like the bellows of blacksmith, and it is known to remove the diseases of kapha. So you can do the simple practice. You can start with 20 strokes in the beginning and keep one hand on your chest and another on your abdomen. So for an absolute beginner, this would help. So we exhale rapidly or actively here like this. So you will see when you exhale, your abdomen is going in. And here you don't have to worry about your inhalation. So in normal breathing, our inhalation is active and exhalation is passive. But in Kapalbhati, our exhalation is active and inhalation is passive. So I'll show you how to do this practice again. You can keep one hand on your abdomen now, and you can assist the movement of the abdomen in the beginning, and once you get comfortable, you can release your hand and do the strokes like this. So you must have noticed that my thoracic cage, my upper body is stable while doing this practice, and the strokes are coming from belly or below your belly button. That is very important. And what is happening in Kapalbhati, the exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen is very efficient when you do this. And it is really good to improve your lung capacity as well. The second practice which I would like to give you is Anulom Vilom or Nadi Shuddhi. So you bring your hand in Pranav Mudra. So you curl all your fingers down, open your last two fingers, and you place your thumb below the nasal bone on the right nostril. And then you inhale, maybe to the count of 4 or 5, whatever your capacity is. And then you exhale from the right side. And as I said, your exhalation should be double the time of your inhalation. And then you again take the breath from your right nostril and exhale from the left. Inhale slowly from the right, left. Exhale right. Inhale same right and exhale left. So some mistakes which people do while performing this practice is they inhale and exhale forcefully, which is not right. So this is the mistake people do. So make sure your practices are very slow, effortless. So always remember the principle of effortlessness when you are performing asana or pranayama. Now, all these practices not only help you to get a healthy body and mind, but people who are interested in higher goals or spiritual goal, it kindles your spiritual energy as well. Thank you so much for joining me for this practice or this session of theory and practice. Let me end the session with Shanti Path. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you so much.
Let me share a few words about next speaker, Kulshan Gill. Kulshan Gill is a medical doctor with clinical training in family medicine from India. In addition, she also holds a Bachelor of Naturopathic degree from Canadian College of Naturopathic Medicine in Toronto. Has training in mind-body medicine, stress management, and relaxation therapy from Harvard Medical School. She has extensively trained in Ayurveda, life balancing coaching, meditation, and yoga therapy from USA, Canada, and India. She is a certified life and wellness coach and meditation teacher. Dr. Gill currently works as a registered herbalist and holistic practitioner in Edmonton. The main focus of her service is stress management, health education, women's health, pregnancy, and childbirth meditation. She is an eminent motivational speaker.
Namaskar, my name is Kulshan Gill and thank you for joining in today's session. First of all, I want to thank Maanaw Seva Association for once again taking this initiative to organize the International Day of Yoga and giving me this opportunity once again to present some of my views and share some information with relation to health and wellness. So as you know, today is International Day of Yoga. And for most people around the world, or primarily in the Western world, yoga is a form of exercise. We see it from just a physical perspective. But today I'm going to shed some light as how yoga is implemented in a mind, body, and spiritual way. Yoga in its true sense means yog or union, connection of the mind, body, and spirit, which is essential for complete health and wellness of our well-being. Ancient yogis perceived that life is a cycle of birth, our life and growth, aging, and then death. In order to gain spiritual investigation, and a sense of higher purpose. We need a strong sense of willingness or willpower to investigate a little bit more deeper. And for this, we have the concept of yoga. Yoga is a very simple and natural program which is based on 5 core principles. And these are proper exercise, as in asanas, which you will be seeing shortly, proper breathing, which is pranayama, proper relaxation. And again, relaxation gives the body an opportunity to revitalize itself. And relaxation we see in the poses with Shavasana. And proper diet, primarily in yogic understanding, it's vegetarian. And lastly, positive thinking and meditation or dhyan. So I'm going to briefly talk about all these and then explore a little bit more in terms of how our physical well-being is connected with our mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect as well. With proper exercise or asanas that we see in yoga, the core ingredient is our spine alignment. And why that's important? Because from a medical perspective, when you see spine or the spinal cord is the main connection from your head to your the tip. And there's several nerves that go out of it, which take several different kind of messages or energies, as we may call, to all over all our parts of the body. So it's very important in yoga to have this flexibility and suppleness of the spine. And again, as I said, in the following videos, you will see by a teacher how these certain postures and asanas help us gain that flexibility. Proper breathing, pranayama, is one core essential part of how this whole process connects or is in sync with our mental, emotional, spiritual well-being. Most of us don't even breathe properly. Most of the people in general are breathing on the top half of their lungs. The core breathing comes from your belly or the diaphragm, but we never utilize to its fullest potential. We don't utilize our lungs to its fullest potential. So most of the time we are breathing from the top half, which doesn't necessarily empty the toxins that are accumulated over the time period in our lungs. Everybody understands that lungs are the general organ which circulate the blood or the oxygen we intake and releases the carbon dioxide. So imagine if you're not fully expanding them, we don't fully breathe, and we are left with minute toxins that go back into the body. And so a lot of us people feel not alive, not awake, not aware. And then we sit like this. And this again depresses the breathing. And oftentimes, if you notice, we do this sigh. This is a gentle reminder by the body to breathe deeply. I can assure you, for the next couple of days, even if you try this exercise for just 5 days, take your time in the morning, and the first thing in the morning, do 5 deep breaths, whether it's deep Om Vilom or Kapalabhati, whatever works for you. And again, the teacher will explain it to you in a little while. You will feel more energetic. You take a lot of oxygen, which goes and improves your circulation, goes to different parts of your body. It gives you mental clarity, and that's why it's important, an important part of yoga. Proper relaxation. Again, this is something we have challenged in today's time. Our lives have become so fast-paced that we've forgotten how to relax. Now, relaxation in our general, everyday life is by one thing that we do, we all do it, which we don't do properly again, is sleep. Sleep is the time that the body just takes its, it regenerates itself, it repairs itself over the damage that has been done to it internally over the time period, and it restores itself. But what is happening in today's fast-paced life is that we're not taking enough time to sleep as well. And this is causing further challenges. You might wonder what sleep got to do with yoga. Well, again, yoga means union. It's mind, body, and spiritual aspect of it. It's a complete package for our complete well-being. I'm going to move on and from a naturopathic perspective, talk about a little bit about diet, the role of diet in our living, in our lifestyle. Now, in the yogic way of living, diet is primarily to be vegetarian. Let me pause a little bit here and explain what that means, because we all have different definitions of what our diet should be. We're at either extremes. We're completely vegetarian. People have their own dimensions and definitions of what vegetarianism looks like. Or the other side, where people are non-vegetarian. But there we can have a fine common ground as well. If you can be completely vegetarian, that's perfect. It's healthy. But if you can't, and again, our diet depends on our needs of the body. Every phase, every growth in an age group requires different amount of nutrition that they need to take. It's different for young children, it's different for teenagers, for pregnant women, and it changes as we age or in old age. So there are different aspects to as how we eat. What's the connection of diet with yoga? Well, again, in the yogic understanding and even in Ayurveda, what we eat, how much we eat, when we eat, and how our digestion and bowel function works makes us in connection with our physical appearance and also in our mental and emotional well-being. What does that look like? Well, today we're in a generation where we have easy access to food. There's abundant food all over the place. We're not challenged, we're not hungry. You might not agree to this because you might be like, well, there are people in the world who are dying of hunger. Yes, of course they are, but in general, there's enough abundant food that's available on this planet. We have resourced it from different sources. We have processed to a point where the nutrition value is pretty much nil, and then we eat more than we require to. What does a typical diet look like today? Well, first of all, we're not eating proper meals. We're not eating seasonal foods, fruits and vegetables that grow in a particular season. One thing I want to bring your attention to is that pretty much in a yogic lifestyle or in our traditional medicine of Ayurveda, seasonal changes are affecting the body as well. And we don't kind of make that connection very consciously. There's spring, there's summer, there's fall, there's winter, and again we go back to spring. But throughout this changing process, the body also changes itself, which is called the circadian rhythm. And again, we're disconnected from it. And that's why yoga, when you talk about yoga and connecting all the four components, it's important to have your alignment from what you mentally and emotionally think to what your body perceives, what you put inside the body, and how you feel about it. If you go to a grocery store today, you can see our food comes from all over the world. We have access to all kinds of fruits and vegetables throughout the year. For example, if you talk about seasonal fruits, watermelon and mangoes are typically summer fruits, but I'm not surprised to find them during December and January months as well. So the point here is that we're eating mindlessly and out of season foods, which affect our body differently because the digestion process is different throughout the seasons. So it's important to pay attention when you go buy your grocery. Ideally, you should have locally grown food. If we talk about Canada, Alberta, or Edmonton itself, we have very limited summer and very limited resources for locally grown food because of our temperature and our climate. Most of our food comes here from way different countries or from outside of Canada. So first, you should pay attention to where your food is grown. If it is grown here, homegrown, great. And again, a little note on organic and non-organic. Please do not get onto that bandwagon. No matter how much you try, complete organic food is unavailable. I would say the most closest organic food is something that's grown in your own backyard, and that also is completely not organic because there's still elements that are in the air, in the water, in the soil that perhaps is in your backyard. So you have to be very mindful and conscious of what you are eating and putting in your body. So in more recent times, there was a 100-mile diet. You might have heard about it. And what that just generally means is within the 100-mile radius of where you live to access food from there. It might not be possible for everybody to do that. So the easiest and the simplest thing can be that you first be conscious that your food is locally grown. Maybe it's in the city, in the province. If not, then maybe within the country. Maybe it's grown in Canada. Our closest nations, our neighbors, are United States and maybe some South American countries such as Mexico. And these are the travel times are still sort of short. So imagine if your food was coming from some far off land, say in China or India or New Zealand or Australia. From the time that it would be taken off or picked up to the time it gets to your table most of its nutrition value is lost. Because here's the thing, if I'm bringing some produce from, say, far off as Australia or China, it has to be picked at a certain time when it's half raw. Because as a business person, as a wholesale vegetable distributor, I want to make some profit too. So I'm not going to give you a fully ripe food. By the time it gets to your table, it's completely rotten. So in that condition, the food travels by land or by sea or by air, comes to our ports here, then again further travels down to your city or town. And by the time from the grocery shelf to your plate it comes in after cooking and doing what we do to our food, we've completely lost its nutrition value. Some of you might be like, well, what am I supposed to do and what am I supposed to eat? Well, yes, we have to work with our circumstances. But again, the point here is to be mindful. Find food that is locally grown, which is closer coming from the United States or maybe Mexico. Avoid non-seasonal fruits and vegetables. Something like that you would find in summer season fruit and then you're buying it in December, January. Avoid doing that. Stick to what is the freshest available in your town or your city. The other thing is also cooking your food. We cook mindlessly. We add so many condiments into it and spices for our own personal taste. Yes, you should enjoy a tasty, healthy meal, why not? But at the same time, the more we cook, we lose its value, its nutrition value. In Ayurveda, it's very plainly and commonsensically mentioned that either you steam your vegetables or lightly cook them so that they're edible. But most of us, we don't do that. We've come down to frozen foods, we overcook our meals, and then we just microwave them and eat them mindlessly. So whatever you're putting as nourishment is what you're experiencing in your mental emotional well-being as well. Then let's talk about the amount of food and the time we eat. So ideally, again, in our traditional scriptures, we know we have 3 square meals a day. But recent studies have shown that on average, a person eats between 5 to 15 times in a day. I think adults have become worse than little children because we eat mindlessly. Either we skip meals or we don't eat the healthy and the right foods, and then we have hunger pangs, our sugar spikes up and down, and we reach out for the wrong foods at the wrong times. And then we intend to feel well. Well, here's the thing. Again, you're going to question, what's yoga got to do with this? Well, most of us want to do yoga with an intention of feeling healthy and doing exercise and losing weight, but we defeat the purpose if we are not putting our attention to other aspects of our life as well, such as diet, which is an important component and one of the core principles of yoga. So ideally, we need to have 3 meals a day. Now, the biggest meal should be in the afternoon, that's your lunch. Now, what do we do mostly? Most people, I can say 90% of us, eat our biggest meal towards the end of the day, in the nighttime. Now, I want to just kind of quickly touch on a few little things here from Ayurveda perspective. In Ayurveda, we describe doshas as a constitutions for the body. It's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And I'm going to briefly just mention that towards the end of the day, Kapha energy is what is more at its peak. And what that simply means is that your body is sluggish and slow, which again, just I briefly mentioned earlier on, that according to the circadian rhythm of the body, we tend to be active during the day with sunrise, and as the day goes down, we tend to wear out, get exhausted, and we rest. And that's how a natural cycle works. But again, we humans think we're very smart and we've destroyed everything. We've made our own routines and our own schedules. So when you eat a heavy meal at the end of the day, and typically we are eating late into the night, say about 8 or 9 p.m. we are having our dinner, and most people think that's where I'm going to eat more food because I'm hungry, I'm exhausted. Once you eat a heavy meal at the end of the day, and once your kapha energy is more prominent, the digestion is very slowed down. Naturally, the body is not digesting at the end of the day. That's why often when, say, if you've had a party in the night, dinner party, and we've eaten heavy meal, you've stuffed yourself and you go to bed, you are very sluggish and it's difficult to wake up the next morning. And when you wake up, either you're not hungry, you feel full, or you just haven't had a very restful sleep. Because here's what's happened is that heavy meal is not being processed or digested at the end of the night. Naturally, it's not body's job to digest food at the end of the night. When you're resting, when you're sleeping, That's what is the body doing. Very few functions in the body, just like your heart, your circulation, and other chemicals and enzymes and hormones are working overnight, which are preparing the body, repairing the body so that you can function the next morning. Now, according to Ayurveda, ideally you should be eating your dinner between 6 and 7 p.m. Now, most of you are like, well, I barely get home and I'm working, or I have kids to pick up and drop them at their soccer practice as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your health. If you're conscious, then you will be eating a light dinner between 6 and 7 p.m. And then you do not eat a snack or some dessert later in the night. If you follow this, then automatically by the next morning, say between 6 to 10 p.m., you should have your breakfast. You will be hungry because you have had a 12-hour period where your body's had time to ingest, digest, and process whatever it needs to do, and your sugar levels are at its best so that you can intake some more food in the morning and get going. Your biggest meal should come in the middle of the day, which is your lunch. Now, what are we doing? Most people, we skip lunch. Some of us forget to eat, or we just don't eat the right lunch, or we eat like a sandwich or some little snack for lunch. Now, why your meal at the lunch hour should be a bigger meal? Again, as I talked about our energies and our constitution and our doshas, the fire in the belly is the highest or at its peak during the noon hour. So if you eat a meal, which is a bit larger and heavy meal for lunch, it is more easy for the body to digest it at that hour rather than eating at the end of the day when the body is ready to rest and relax and not start its process of digestion. So that's why a bigger, larger meal at lunchtime would just work fine. And I can assure you that if you eat it at that hour, you will not find the need to fill your belly again. If it's at 6 or 7 o'clock dinner time, you won't be that hungry to have extra amount of food. Neither would you crave a snack or your pick-me-up coffee or tea in the mid-afternoon, which most of us tend to do because our energy kind of level is going down. Now, if you've had your timely meals, the next morning, your breakfast, again, breakfast, it says in itself is breaking fast. Most of us people, we skip it. A lot of people I talk to, a lot of my patients have always mentioned, well, I don't have time, or I'm just not hungry, and I just don't feel like eating it. And if some people who are actually wanting to eat a breakfast, they're making unhealthy choices. We're either lined up outside Tim Hortons or Starbucks getting a muffin and a coffee. Now that's okay, but it doesn't really add value to your nutrition or helps you go till the noon hours. And you will again snack mid-morning eating the wrong foods because your sugars are up and down. So it's very important to pay attention to these little simple things. They're not very difficult to do. They're just paying attention, being mindful of what you're ingesting and what you're putting in the body. The one last thing in the diet section I want to highlight is your digestion, your bowel function. It is so very important to have a bowel movement every single day. Now what is happening is most people are suffering with constipation, and that's becoming a big challenge. So if the next morning, and again, our schedule is so erratic, we're eating at odd hours, we're eating the wrong foods, we're not drinking enough water, we don't have enough fiber in our system, so our bowel is not functioning. Now naturally the body's process is to get rid of that toxin, that garbage material, what it has accumulated from the previous day. Ideally, we as normal adults should at least have 1 to 2 bowel movements a day, and preferably the first one is in the morning between the hours of 7 and 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. So it is very important to release that toxin. People who suffer with constipation generally become sluggish, and they feel there's more bloating, they feel gaseous, and that's just the bacteria that's fermenting because it hasn't expelled itself outside the body. And it's not because your body is not doing what it needs to do. The body is trying to do what it needs to do, but the problem is we are not helping it get to that point. That's why, again, you're going to keep questioning what's this constipation got to do with how I feel or yoga. Well, again, mentally, emotionally, it's a very common symptom that you see in depressed patients, the challenge with constipation. A lot of your feel-good hormones and your B vitamins are actually processed in the gut, which is your digestive tract. So if it's not clean, it's not regularly working, you don't tend to absorb those minerals and vitamins. So that becomes a challenge as well. So it's very important to pay attention to these minute, simple things in our daily life. We often don't drink enough water. We are drinking coffee and tea or colas and sodas. Again, you're adding unnecessary sugar, and actually some of these are dehydrating to the body. So very important to drink lots of water and be well hydrated. Let me just get a little bit more reflection on your mental emotional health. The last point, which is one of the core principles, is positive thinking and meditation, or dhyan, as we say. Now, when I talk about meditation, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a religious thing. Most people are mistaken. Meditation doesn't even mean that you're going to sit in a posture and one that we see on a yoga journal or we see on the television, we look pretty and very happy and we're meditating. It doesn't have to be that. Meditation can be done at any place at any time. It is tapping into that silence that is not only around you but within you. It is being aware and being mindful of every fleeting moment in your life. Most of us are just living in either the past or we're contemplating the future. But we're forgetting this very moment, this very present moment. Now this is exactly the moment that is inevitable. You cannot change it, you cannot experience it any different way. It is just the way as it is right now. It's very important to understand that mindfulness process of identifying a moment-to-moment awareness. Because if life is a struggle for you, then it will appear a struggle for you. But if you take it as blissful, then no matter what your circumstances are, you will find bliss in every moment in your life. Whether it's good, bad, or the ugly, you will still find gratitude and you will still be thankful for what you have. But a lot of us, again, we're just so stuck in our past, which we can't do anything about. The future we don't know. We think we know, but we don't know. And then we miss what's happening right now. And this is the exact moment that we need to pay attention to. Let's talk about a little bit about spirituality, your spiritual awareness. Now, again, when I mention spirituality, a lot of people think about a certain faith or a religion they need to follow. It's got nothing to do with that. Your spiritual awareness is just how you connect with the entire universe or the cosmos around you. Your sense of higher purpose, your service back to your community, back to humanity. How do we relate to our environment? And when I say environment, doesn't mean that I have a climate change issue going on or there's so much pollution, but in general, how do you associate yourself as a human being? What is your purpose? Is our only purpose to just eat, sleep, and reproduce? Well, if that's only the purpose, then well, I guess we're like animals. Animals are doing the same thing. We as humans have been blessed with immense intellect and intelligence. That's why we are where we are today. We have been the most rapidly evolving species on planet Earth. Otherwise, as I said, only if your purpose is to eat, sleep, and reproduce, well, again, animals are doing that perfectly fine. And they're not really intelligent. They're just doing their process that they're needing to do. So tap into that human potential that you've been blessed with, because there is more to what appears to your eye at this point in time. Don't get caught in this rat race of, the ego self that is aspiring you to your needs and wants. Let me remind you, ego works on your wants. More than needs, it works on your wants. And what's the difference? The need is, say for example, I have a one-room house, I have a simple meal, and I take the public transit. That is my need, it's been met. But my want will not let me live. My want is, this one-room house doesn't work for me. I need at least 5 to 6 bedrooms, a certain square footage, I need an X number of cars, a special model, and I need to have a variety of food on my plate. I'm not happy with just the simple vegetable and fruits that I get to eat, which are nourishing my body. So your ego self drives you to attain those wants, and it doesn't end there. You have one want, then comes the next one, and then the next, and we are still caught in that rat race. We disconnect from our awareness, from our spiritual awareness that is around us. So with this, I just wanted to wrap up, and I hope I was able to share some few important aspects into how a yogic lifestyle is or can be implemented and how it can be beneficial. And I sure hope that you were able to gain some insight, and I hope once again that I'll be given another opportunity here to come back with more health and wellness seminars and talks here. So with this, I conclude my session and wish you once again a very wonderful International Day of Yoga, and I hope you will implement into your life, not only in just an exercise form, but from a mind, body, and spiritual aspect. Thank you.
If you find the talks interesting, please share the link of the video with your friends and family. Thank you.